All right, well, the time now being 7 o'clock, I will call the meeting to order. As far as remarks, I don't have many other than I would like to welcome Justin Morrison to our meeting, the newest council member of Huron East representing the Ward of Brussels. So welcome, Justin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited to get started and to represent Brussels and Huron East on council.
Okay, welcome. All right, land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land we stand upon today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the neutral peoples. And at this time, I have a motion for the confirmation of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Steffler, that the agenda for the regular meeting of council dated January 18th of 2022 be adopted as circulated with the following amendment. Item 9.3, correspondence from Alexandria Marine and General Hospital and South Huron Hospital Association, request for letter of support regarding install of the MRI unit at the AMGH site. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest from any member of council this evening? Seeing none at this time. Minutes of the previous meeting. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? And this will be for all three meetings. Moved by Councillor Chartrand, second by Councillor On, that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East approve the following council meeting minutes as printed and circulated. The special council meeting of January 4th of 2022, the public hearing of January 4th of 2022, and the regular council January 4th of 2022. Any comments on those minutes? All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Public meetings, hearings, and delegations. And we do have a presentation. Sorry, I'm just reading here. I've got a separate page here. We do have a presentation by Cole Nicholson, the Business Retention and Expansion Coordinator, Economic Development, Huron County. And I see Vicky. Oh yeah, I do see Cole also. Welcome, Cole. I will turn the floor over to you at this time.
Oh, thank you very much, Mayor McClellan. I'll actually be passing it off to our director, Vicky Lass, who will be presenting on the BRNE project this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Cole will assist me with answering any questions when we get to the Q&A at the end of the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to present to you on the 2021 and 2022 BRNE summary report. If I may, I will share my screen so that we can walk through the presentation. All right. So this evening, I would like to take this opportunity to update you on the Business Retention and Expansion project and to highlight some of the points that are in the summary reports that you received as part of your package for this evening. You have one summary report that looks at the data that was collected across the entire county, and Cole also prepared for you a summary report that just looks at the businesses from Huron East. So we'll walk through and I'll tell you a bit about the process that Cole has been undertaking so far. The BRNE process, Business Retention and Expansion process, is an internationally accepted economic development tool. This project was started last year as a means of surveying our business community so that we could better understand their needs at this time. It is a 4-stage process. Stage 1 is preparation, and during the preparation phase, Cole formed a project task force, which included a number of our BIAs and chambers, as well as representatives from various other business sectors and some of our financial institutions. The survey is a standardized survey that's delivered by OMAFRA, and they do keep a database of answers so that comparisons can be made across the province, although there is an ability to customize a small portion of questions. So Cole designed the survey in conjunction with his task force and with Cody Jodry, the director at the time. The next step was to recruit and train volunteers. Now, in a normal year and a normal BRNE, we would train volunteers to go out and interview businesses face to face. Because of COVID, we needed to move towards a more virtual type of survey process. So volunteers were trained to phone and contact businesses to let them know that the survey was coming, and also to follow up once that survey was mailed to them and ask if they had any difficulties, if they could assist over the phone in any way. In total, 3,360 surveys were mailed out. That is the number of businesses that we have right now in our business directory, although there are 6,000 businesses in Huron County. We are very excited to report that 723 businesses completed the survey. That is a 21% response rate. And the individuals at OMAFRA who normally look after the BRNE process were thrilled and actually quite blown away at the response rate that we got not going in person. So from that 723 businesses, we have collected a lot of data that we will be able to use to assess the needs of the businesses across the county. Pardon me. During the survey process, businesses can identify if they would like immediate attention, immediate consultations, or assistance with immediate difficulties. We call these red flags. And so in the process, 200 businesses identified that they had a red flag issue and they would like immediate follow-up. Those 200 follow-ups were conducted by our Small Business Enterprise Center coaches and staff, as well as some economic development staff. So we were immediately in further conversation with 200 businesses and able to assist them with their needs at that time. In total, over 30 volunteers, staff, and summer students helped to support this program and lead us to this amazing response rate. The next step in the process is to analyze all of that data and start to identify key themes. These themes will help to guide the work that we do and we'll use the themes to outline our strategic direction within the department. Data summary reports were created. As I mentioned earlier, you received 2 in tonight's package. Just to highlight some of the information that came out of that data summary report. It's a very large report with a lot of information, so we wanted to highlight a few points. We find that it takes 2 or 3 read-throughs to actually digest most of the information. But we're happy to report that Huron County is dominated by locally owned and operated businesses. The majority of those businesses have operated for over 11 years, with quite a number operating for over 20 and in some cases over 35 years in business. The majority of the businesses surveyed have 19 or fewer employees, with quite a large number having employees between numbers of 1 and 4 employees. The majority of business report serving both local and regional markets, although there are some who do export. The bulk of the business is done locally and regionally. The report shows that Huron County has a very stable business community, and this has been the case for a number of years. Paul Nickel from Community Futures Huron helped to do our initial data summary with us, and he stated that 10 years ago, when he was involved in a countywide BRNE, we also had a very stable business community. At that time, we saw that as a very positive thing because none of those businesses were at the end of their life cycle. Now, 10 years later, that same very stable business economy is going to present some challenges to us in the next few years, as a number of those businesses are aging out without a succession plan. Respondents had a neutral or positive outlook for their industry, and that's really quite wonderful because remember, this survey was done during the pandemic when businesses could comment that they were in chaos to some degree. So the fact that even amidst the second year of a pandemic, our businesses reported a positive outlook for their individual industries. To the right of this slide, you will see the breakdown of all 723 respondents, agriculture being the largest number of responses. And please keep in mind that for this particular NAICS code, agriculture is not just primary producers, but those along the agricultural value chain. We are happy to report that there was no change in attitude towards doing business in Huron County because the attitude is a very favorable one, and that is consistent again during a pandemic. There was a high level of satisfaction from respondents with both community and local government services. The advantages of doing business in Huron County were noted as a strong sense of community, supportive people, the desirable location, which included a desirable lifestyle, and supportive residents and businesses. Noted in the countywide survey, when asked for areas of improvement, the top 5 were access to attainable housing, addressing workforce shortages, access to internet, a desire to increase in population, and a desire for the lowering of taxes. I just want to note that those were for across the county, but the 2 areas of improvement stated by Huron East businesses were access to attainable housing and addressing workforce shortages. So as we're in budget season, just letting you know, there was not a lot of concern over lowering taxes. It was not one of the top concerns for Huron East, nor was access to internet, and nor was a desire for an overwhelming desire for an increase in population. Again, on this slide, the chart to the right shows there were 137 businesses responded in Huron East, and again, agriculture being at the top of that list, followed by manufacturing and retail and other services as listed in the chart. So after going through and creating the data summary reports that you have, we were able to identify 4 main themes. We have ground truth these. We've worked with some groups to get feedback, including Paul Nickel from Community Futures Huron, Sandra Weber from our director of our planning department, who was acting director at the initial phase of the development of the summary reports, and John Marshall, the chair of our Economic Development Board. These themes were further ground truthed with our task force, our BIAs, our chambers, some of our financial institutions. So we feel quite confident in moving forward with the following 4 themes. Planning along the business life cycle. There are a number of businesses that do not have a business plan in Huron County, or if they do, they have not actually referred to it or used it in the last 5 years. So we'll be looking at business planning and support and coaching in the startup phase, the growth phase, and the succession planning phase for Huron County businesses. The second theme that was identified is, no surprise, workforce issues. And we have been having the workforce issue conversation for a while, but the results of the survey have given us more depth and texture and a fuller understanding of exactly where the shortages lie and what the businesses need as for support in addressing those workforce issues. Our third theme is infrastructure improvements, and under this broad heading, we are looking at, we heard from businesses that they would like an improvement in internet access, housing availability at an attainable level, looking at shipping from the perspective of rail, air, truck or roads, and harbors, as well as access to natural gas, I think that's it. So those are some of the areas of infrastructure improvement. And our fourth pillar, theme, is beneficial business supports. So a number of our businesses told us that they wanted additional support and assistance under a variety of topics. Some of those topics would include coaching. Some of those topics would include various training opportunities. So it is a rather broad category, but as you dig into the report, you'll see the types of requests that have been made by our businesses. And so those beneficial business supports comprise our fourth theme. When we consulted with the 200 businesses that requested additional support, we also saw some themes emerging. One of the themes that emerged from those 200 consultations was a desire for access to funding program opportunities, business planning and growth support, succession planning, digital marketing and web content, and that they had difficulties hiring and retaining staff. So this takes us to stage 3 of the BR&E process, where we are making presentations to all of our partner municipalities to let them know about the results and to show them the results from their own business community. And our next step will be going out to host sector and community roundtable conversations where we'll dig deeper and on those themes, look at goals and actions that could happen to support those themes. We'll also be looking at what currently the ECDEV department is doing to support those themes, as well as other ECDEV organizations in the community, and looking to align activities so that we can have the largest possible reach and impact with the work that the department does. We'll be preparing a final report with action plans and continuing to update you and communicate our results as we move forward. So when we look at our roundtables in more detail, we will be reviewing the data summary report. We have identified the theme areas, but we'll be looking a bit deeper at key findings and priorities. And the main focus of the roundtables will be to develop goals and to plan to create an action plan. So actions created to those goals, and then develop performance measures to support those actions. Thus far, we have had a mini data retreat where we reached out and had expertise in sorting through the data. And that was again done with Sandra Weber, John Marshall, and Paul Nickel, as well as Economic Development Department staff. We presented our findings to the Economic Development Department, the Planning Department, the Economic Development Board, County Council, and now we're going to our partner municipalities. You are the third presentation that we have done to partner municipalities, and we have also presented to the senior management team at the county. We will be planning our sector and community roundtables. They will be upcoming in February and March, and we will also be presenting to the Sustainable Huron Steering Committee on February the 25th. After we have held our roundtables, we will summarize our goals and actions and create a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. Typically, we create a 3 to 5 year plan, but considering the current economic conditions, we will probably create initially a 3-year plan, but really concentrate on creating a 1-year action plan while we ride out where COVID is taking us for a bit. And not really ride out, because we will be actively involved with supporting our business community and doing our economic development work. But we believe that setting goals 1 year at a time right now is probably the most expedient way to move forward. We will be aligning our strategies with the county vision and mission. And then we will be implementing our strategic work plan down to an individual staff work plan level throughout the department. At this time, I would like to ask if there are any questions.
Are there any questions of members of council at this time? Well, you're not getting quite the response you got the other night, Vicky, when we did this presentation. Now, in fairness, it was the Economic Development Department that went through it the other night, and we did have a very lengthy one. I know everybody was really happy with the amount of people that we had for turnout and the information that we got. One thing that was pointed out was that because there was such a large uptake of the farming community that entered into this, is that there may be a need to break out the farming community from the regular general business and do individual reports on each of those so that we see what the differences is, so that one doesn't skew from the other, because they may have different goals or desires moving forward also. So go ahead, Vic.
Pardon me, Mr. Mayor. And also the farming community has different succession planning issues than a regular business. Traditionally, succession planning in the farming industry is intergenerational, and that is not always the case with some of our other entrepreneurs. So Cole is actually working on pulling those reports apart so we can examine the data more closely.
Okay. Did you have a comment, Larry?
No.
Okay.
I would also like to ask Mr. Mayor, if I may, through you to council, when we are approaching our sector roundtables, we will be looking at the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector, the tourism and hospitality sector, and also the retail sector, and local food will be involved there as well. So if there are any businesses that come to mind that you feel should be part of those further conversations, we would appreciate those referrals, and you can send that information directly to Cole. He will be organizing those roundtables, and we certainly would appreciate any of those referrals or recommendations.
Okay. Councillor Chartrand.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Vicky, nice seeing you again.
Nice to see you too.
Could our local BIAs be part of those roundtables?
Absolutely. We have been working very closely with your local BIAs. Maureen Agar has been on our task force and participating with us. And so she has been very active in taking a very active role on behalf of Huron East at this time.
Well, that's good. Thanks.
You're more than welcome.
Any other questions from members of council? Okay, seeing none at this time, but Vicky, I'd still like to thank you very much for the work that you've done here. And we saw information in this report that we haven't seen when we've done surveys before, and you were able to break things down quite a bit. So there's no doubt in my mind, this is going to be beneficial information going forward, and something that hopefully year after year we can compare one against the other and see what our trends are moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I may just give one example of another way that we use this data, if you have time for me. Okay, so not only can we look at our planning and strategy, but we can act right away. So an example that I would like to share, which involved Alex Ripley, who is also with us here this evening. We got a call from probably 2 weeks ago now from the technical training group. And the technical training group, if you're not familiar with them, does pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship training in Perth and Huron counties. And part of their process when they're looking to be funded to do their apprenticeship training is that they have to have letters of support from employers saying that employers will take those apprentices on. They had been having trouble getting those letters in Huron County, but they had a resounding response from Perth County who would say they would happily take any Huron County trained apprentices. We don't want that to happen. We want to keep our Huron County trained apprentices. So when Cavell Fraser, the executive director of Technical Training Group, reached out to me, she said, we really need some letters from Huron County or you're at risk of losing your apprentices. So Alex and Cole and I met, and one of the questions in the survey was, do you use apprentices, interns, or co-op students? So Cole was actually able to take us into the data, pull a list of everyone who had responded that yes, they did use apprentices. We were able to go through that list and identify for, I believe it was welder and sheet metal worker, who would use that type of apprentice. Alex dropped everything, spent 2 days making phone calls, and he was able to make 5 referrals to Cavell of different businesses who would accept apprentices and would be interested in those positions. And then a few days later, 2 more businesses stepped forward. So in total, we are looking at between 7 and 10 individuals being trained and then eventually placed in local businesses in those 2 types of positions. So we're already seeing successes, and we're not finished with the BRNE process yet. And so this data is extremely valuable. And the resounding response that we got really shows how enthusiastic our businesses are about engaging with us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no other questions, then I do need a mover and a seconder to accept the report. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Deal. Actually, I do not have. No, I apologize for that. Apparently there is no motion to receive the report. It was just for information, and there isn't a separate motion here. Thank you for coming out, Vicky, Cole, and Alex.
Thank you very much for your time, Mayor and Council. Have a great evening.
Take care. Next is our public meeting for the budget. So at this point, I will turn this over to Paula, and Paula can share the good news.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see? I think it should be good. Okay, so here we are for the 2022 budget presentation, January 18th of 2022. And you'll note it's quite a bit earlier than normal. Normally we're in March, April sometimes when we're doing this. So it's good to see that we bumped it up, pushed it through. So we started the first draft of the 2022 budget on November 16th, 2021. And some of the items that we were aware of at the time that we started the budget with is we knew the funding was going to increase by $16,000. That was the good news because up until this year, we'd been faced with decreases of about 100,000. So in 2021, we had a $90,000 decrease. So that was good. We were going up slightly by 16,000. Our policing costs continued the trend of slightly decreasing. We're just below a 1% decrease now in 2022. For the Ontario Community Infrastructure Funding, we had estimated the funding would remain unchanged at the $431,000 that we had received in 2021. We didn't have the announcements. It was anticipated that the funding amounts were going to change and that they would increase slightly, but we didn't know exactly what that would be. So conservatively, I estimated to remain unchanged at the 2021 level. And then our liability insurance, that was we knew it was going to increase, and we had an estimate from our current insurance provider of to expect about a 15% increase, which was good news because in 2021, we experienced a 67% increase. So there was a couple good news items there, and Council had previously denoted a 2.1% levy increase towards capital sustainability. So that 116,000 will go towards capital projects. It'll be put into reserves and it'll be used to fund future capital projects. So the main thing on this slide here is to note the one item that wasn't on the previous slide was the COLA increase was estimated at a 4.4% increase for the 2022 budget. So when all of that was compiled and the department budgets were submitted, I looked at it and decided that a 10.5 general municipal levy increase was required. That would add $581,000 of levy revenue. And then we already had the 2.1% for the capital levy, an additional $116,000. So in all, the first draft budget was being proposed with an increase of just under $700,000 to the levy, which totals a 12.6% municipal increase. So major equipment that was included in the first draft was payment of the balance owing on the replacement of the 1986 tanker truck for Gray Fire. And council will note that we received the ISIP COVID funding towards that, and the remaining is $234,000 in the 2022 budget. So then the other replacement of equipment is from Public Works Department. So we have a replacement of a 2004 tandem truck, $300,000 was included. A 2007 backhoe, $180,000. Replacement of the 2003 trackless, replacement of a leaf vacuum, and replacement of a 2009 one-ton truck. So in total, the total equipment replacements were proposed at just under $1 million in the first draft. So projects for Public Works capital projects that were proposed in the first draft included Princess Street reconstruction in Brussels. And that would go from Dunedin Drive to CN Road. It would be composed of water, wastewater, storm, sidewalks, and road portions to that project. In total, it would be a cost of $1.2, $1.3 million. And of that, just under $750,000 was related to roads, storm, and sidewalk. Hensel Road reef paving in Tucker Smith was proposed to go from Highway 4 to Staffa Road, and that totaled in repaving of 8.6 kilometers. The OCIF formula funding was going to be used towards that project, so there was going to be a municipal cost after that funding was applied of $430,000. And then Turnberry Street parking lot paving in Brussels was also proposed in the first draft for $20,000. The bridge work that was included in the first draft for the 2022 budget were approval. It's mainly approval on design work and pre-design work to get structures going for larger projects and reconstruction of those projects. So there's approvals and design of the structures M17 on Maple Line in McKillop, as well as M41 on Summerhill Road in McKillop. And then there's pre-design of structure T19 on Rogerville Road in Tucker Smith. And those projects total $75,000. And those will be funded from the bridge reserves. So facility work that's included in the first draft was expansion of the Brussels Fire Hall. And that was a joint project with Huron County Paramedics. And it was approximately $1 million project. Huron County's estimated portion of that for the paramedic bays was 2/3 of the cost of the project, so $750,000, and that would be debentured and paid back by Huron County to Huron East over the 5 years, and that would be through like a lease payment. So then there was renovations to the front entrance at Town Hall to make a secured entrance for Town Hall so that we were aware of who was in the building and when, and to improve the safety and well-being of staff. And that was included at $30,000. So the studies, reports, and system improvements proposed in the first draft were electronic meeting and records management systems. And that is a total cost of $168,000. However, we have submitted for 75% funding through the Municipal Modernization Fund, and that is through the implementation stream. Municipal services and an IT services delivery review, estimated at $110,000, was also included in the first draft. And we submitted for 100% funding through the Municipal Modernization Fund, intake 3, and that is under the review stream. And then another project that we included for the implementation stream of the municipal modernization funding for 75% funding is in continued improvements for our asset management program and review of our data. So that our main project is going to be to reconcile our water wastewater projects with the GIS inventory, as well as make sure that we're balanced between the two systems so we can rely on the GIS data as our asset management data. So for the water and wastewater rates for 2022, there were some changes that occurred. So for the Seaforth water, there's a $2 monthly increase for 2022. Brussels water was unchanged. Brucefield water, there was a $2 a month increase. And then Venastra water, there was a 2% increase. And that's a consumption-based cost. So I didn't put costs out because it was hard to estimate what it would be. So wastewater rates, the Seaforth wastewater increased the $2 a month. And then Brussels wastewater increased $4 a month. And this is doubled because we didn't do the increase in the water. It's more detrimental for the Brussels wastewater system to build those reserves up because we've got the big project of the filtration building going on. And then the Venastra wastewater rates increased by 4%. So they went from just under $54 a month to approximately $56 a month. So about a $2 a month increase as well. The projects, the capital projects that were included for water wastewater in the 2022 budget, wastewater includes the Brussels Princess Street reconstruction, as well as the water systems includes that for the Brussels. And then the Brucefield water system included design of a new well, and that's at the existing site. In the first draft, the reserves are proposed to increase by approximately $1 million. And these will be mainly contributions from the gas tax fund, aggregate resources, and the water wastewater systems. And a new transfer to reserves was included in the first draft in the amount of $250,000. And this is for future replacement of the Seaforth Fire Hall. And then the main utilizations from the reserves would be from the modernization funding reserves towards those capital projects or the studies. And then $123,000 from the Venastra recreation reserves and $100,000 from the equipment reserves, which we contributed from the 2021 budget for the replacement of public works equipment. So the recreation levies were provided a 5% base levy increase, and that provided an additional $28,000 across the 3 facilities. The deficit reduction levies were adjusted to reflect the 50% of the 2021 utility costs, and they were broken down by BMG is $41,000, SDCC was $38,000, and Venastra Recreation was $18,000. So it was noted in the first draft that the deficits were still increasing for the recreation facilities and that these really needed to be addressed, and we shouldn't allow the facilities to carry forward deficits. It just complicates things more and it just sets them back in the hole to start with a future budget. So this being said, we analyzed, this was on the plate to analyze for proposals in the second draft of the 2022 budget. And then the proposed capital projects for recreation were the expansion of Russell's Morrison Gray Community Center. And that was a total estimated cost of $7.3 million. And there was federal provincial funding, fundraising campaign contributions, and Morris Turnberry's contributions, which would provide $5.4 million towards the project, leaving Huron East with a cost of just under $2 million for the project. The other recreation capital project included in the first draft were kitchen renovations and installation of the sound baffles and resurfacing of the pool deck at Venastra Recreation Center. And these were at a cost of $63,000. And we knew we had submitted for a Trillium grant, didn't know the results at that time, but we were hoping to receive funding towards that. So then for the special area rates, the streetlight levies were decreased across the board for all 14 systems. And those reductions ranged from $250 to $66,500. And that $66,000 was in the Seaforth system because they had a large capital project in 2021 for the lighting of the Duke Street extension, as well as, I believe, Huron Road expansion, additional lighting there. And for 2022, Seaforth system also has proposed capital work of $12,000 for additional lighting on Duke and Centennial. And then to continue with the special area rates, our waste management systems, there were several levy adjustments included for them. Gray and McKillop had an $8,000 increase to their levy for 2022 proposed. Seaforth Urban System had a $50,000 decrease, and Vanastra System had a $5,000 decrease. So a summary of the first draft budget. It was currently proposed with a general municipal levy increase of just under $700,000, and that equated to the 12.6% increase. The first draft ended in an unfunded position of approximately $1.3 million. Reserves were proposed to increase just over $1 million, and proposed municipal levy increase, including the special area rates, was brought down to the 7.39%. So that shows you the impact of those special area rate decreases on the levies to that 12.6%. It brought it down to a 7.39%. And at that time, the 2022 county and education levies were unknown. So council discussions on balancing the $1.3 million that was unfunded for the first draft it was requested to add in monitors and sound systems for the council chambers. It was discussed to reduce the Hensel Road paving project by 50% and go down to approximately the 4 kilometers of rural paving that is normally done. Remove the replacement of the trackless. And then council had a lot of discussion on the aggregate resource portion of the bridge reserves and utilizing that for public works replacement of their equipment for 2022, as well as council requested that the future aggregate resources revenue be contributed to the equipment reserve going forward. So then on December 7th, the second draft was proposed, presented to council, and the changes that were incorporated in there is the monitors and sound system were added, and that was at an estimated cost of $100,000. And this was going to be offset by contributions from the vibrancy funds, the community funds from the wind turbines. Recreation changes, the levies were increased to reduce their carry forward deficits. BMG was increased by $77,000, and SDCC levies were increased by $228,000. Public Works, we removed 50% of the Hensel Road paving, and that resulted in a savings of $361,000. We deferred replacement of the trackless to a future budget, saving $100,000 in the 2022 budget. We added the municipal assessment for capital drains, and that was $388,000. Reserves, we added in a utilization of $450,000 from the aggregate resources portion of the bridge reserves for the replacement of public works equipment. And then to summarize the second draft presentation, the second draft was now in an unfunded balance of just under $600,000. Still at the general municipal levy increase of your 10.5%, and then the additional 2.1% capital levy. The municipal levy increase was still at the 7.39, which includes your special rate areas. And the impacts to the various wards ranged from a decrease of 0.01% in Seaforth to an increase of 10.6 in McKillop. Council discussions on balancing the second draft, just under $600,000. It was decided to remove the monitors and sound system from council chambers and to defer the town hall front entrance renovations and painting of council chambers. And this was due to the fact that there's going to be a facility review. We wanted to review the whole facility to make sure that we were utilizing funds appropriately and to the best efficiency that we could for the building. Knowing that we're running out of space and we need to do something, we want to evaluate the building completely and address issues efficiently and economically. So those are on hold, and that saved money in the 2022 budget. So then it was decided to, rather than phase out the recreation carry forward deficits all at once, to try and phase it in over 3 to 4 years. And so I went back for the third draft and analyzed that. And we reduced and deferred the transfer to reserves of the $250,000 for the future replacement of the Seaforth Fire Hall until this facility review can be done. And that is a holistic facility review of all Huron East buildings, not just town hall. So, and we're going to utilize $20,000 from the solar reserves for the 2 dual charging stations that were added in. And that is going to come from the solar reserve, so they offset each other, so there's no impact to the second draft there. So then changes on December 21st, the third draft was presented, and the third draft included those changes, the funding of the dual charging station of $20,000 from the solar reserves. Administration salaries were reviewed and reduced just under $6,000 due to retirement and replacement of the staff. We deferred the town hall front entrance renovations and council chambers painting, and that saved about $44,000. We removed the transfer to reserves of the $250,000 for the Seaforth Fire Hall. And then the Brussels Fire Addition, we reduced that by $250,000 as that amount is anticipated that it will stretch into the 2023 budget to be completed. So that resulted in a savings of about $140,000. And that's due to Morris Turnberry's contribution to the Brussels Fire Hall. So to continue with the changes included in the third draft, we deferred the elimination of the recreation carry forward deficits to 2023. And those will be phased in over a 3-year period. So the deficits will be frozen at the end of 2022. They will not increase going forward, and they will be phased out over the next 3 years. This way it allows for the contributing municipalities as well as Huron East to plan for those increased levies over that 3-year period. The OCIF formula funding was increased by $364,000, and that was good news, and it will be utilized towards the reconstruction on Princess Street in Brussels. So we deferred the replacement of the leaf vacuum to 2023 budget, and the winter control contracted services were reduced by $60,000 after reviewing the numbers again. And then replacement of the 2004 tandem, we were notified of an increase in the cost, so an additional $3,200 was added to the third draft. So to end the third draft, we're in an unfunded position of $150,000 with the 12.6% municipal levy increase. And then to add it all together with the special rate areas, it brought it down to a 7.57% levy increase. And you'll note from the second draft, this number had changed from a 7.37% to the 7.57%. And that's due to the 2022 assessments being received And now those numbers are being analyzed for the levy increases. So impacts to the various wards now range from an increase of just under 1%, 0.67% in Seaforth, to an increase of 13.1% in McKillop. So then the options presented for balancing the 2022 budget. Council could cut expenses further, but in order to do that would likely be resulting in service cuts. Reducing service levels is always an option, but as part of our reports and studies proposed in the second draft, there's a municipal service delivery review for completion. So it was proposed to hold off on any changes to service levels until that review was completed. Utilization of additional funds from reserves is an option. However, there isn't a reserve with significant funds to draw from. And council is trying to build reserves for the sustainability of our capital assets. You could always incur additional debt. However, staff we're not recommending that at this time, as there isn't a suitable project really for obtaining debt towards. And then the final option is to increase the levy to cover the unfunded amount. Nobody likes increasing taxes any further than we have to. However, to analyze it a bit, approximately an additional $20 annually per average residence would result in covering that unfunded balance. So here we are tonight to the public meeting for the 2022 budget. The general municipal tax levy has increased from 5.5 million in 2021 to 6.4 million in 2022. The net municipal tax levy, and that includes the special area rates, has increased by $740,000, or equating to a 9.49% increase. So the summary of the municipal tax levy increases is below. And you'll note that the $847 or $847,000 has increased on the general levy, has been offset by the reductions to the waste management, policing costs, and the street lights. And that brings it down to the 9.49% increase. So a comparison of the capital spending to the 2021 capital spending, you'll note that there is a $3 million increase in 2022 capital budget. And this is mainly in the Parks and Rec, and that relates to the BMG expansion. And then there's the transportation is a reduction of approximately 2 million, as well as environmental. So our water and sewer projects are down by approximately 3 million. And there's smaller increases, about 500,000 increased in protection, which is our fire hall expansion in Brussels. And then the general government, which are those studies that we've proposed for, we've applied for funding. So hopefully the increase isn't that much. So to give a visual of the capital expenditures for 2022, you can note that the majority of it is in the Parks and Recreation piece there, 63%, followed by transportation at 21%. And then we fill in with protection and persons and property at 8.5%, Parks and Rec at 5%, and general government at 3%. So the 2022 budget is proposed to decrease unrestricted reserves by approximately $500,000. And that will mainly affect the BMG building reno, $365,000 that we've set aside for that. We're going to utilize that in the renovations, as well as the bridges will decrease by approximately $140,000. And the other big one is working capital is, well, that's going to actually increase about $100,000. And the solar reserve is projected to increase even though we're utilizing the 20,000 towards those dual charging stations. So we're going from 2.8 million down to a 2.3 million in unrestricted reserves. So the highlights of the 2022 budget as proposed now: operating expenditures of $13.7 million, $740,000 increase to general municipal levies, which equates to a 9.49% municipal levy increase, and that includes your special area rates. The impact of the county and education levies are still unknown at this time. And the overall reserve levels are decreasing from 12 million to 11.8 million. So a slight decrease in your reserve levels. The main contributions from water and wastewater and the gas tax, and the main utilization is for the BMG building reno, Vanastra renovations, and the water and wastewater reserves. So to analyze the levy compared to 2021, we're going from a 7.8 million up to an 8.5 million. So a 9.49% increase in the municipal levy for 2022. A 4-year comparison, so from 2019 to 2022, the municipal levy has increased 1.8 million or 26.2%. Now to offset that, the funding has decreased by approximately 240,000 or 18.1% to offset that 26.2%. So a few reasons for tax increases are annual inflation cost increases, increased liability insurance premiums, administration reorganization, and new staffing positions in 2022. There's large building renovations at BMG and Brussels Fire Hall occurring in 2022. And then there's the increased requirement for PPE and COVID safety precautions, including additional staffing and security. So on the assessment side, for any information questions relating to property assessments, they need to go to MPAC, and they can be reached at the following websites: mpac.ca or aboutmyproperty.ca is where ratepayers can go to investigate their assessments, and they can actually compare their assessment to neighboring residents to see if they're misaligned a bit on their assessments. As well, they have that 866 number that they can contact as well and actually talk with a person. So as council is aware, the 2022 assessments are frozen at the 2020 values, and that is due to the COVID pandemic. And it has also been announced that the 2023 assessments are going to remain as well at the 2020 level. So benefits to the ratepayer from their municipal tax dollars: there's emergency services, fire and police, 24/7, 365 days a year. There's approximately 543 kilometers of roads, 70 kilometers of sidewalks, 60 bridges and 74 culverts, animal control, property standards, bylaw control, streetlights, waste management. There's 2 arenas, 2 swimming pools, an indoor and an outdoor, gym and recreational facility, daycare, 6 community halls and centers, 7 parks, and 4 playgrounds. So a municipal property tax comparison to annual household expenses. So in 2022, as the budget is proposed now, on the average residential assessment of $197,000, the proposed increases are $1,500 to Seaforth residents, $1,500 to Brussels residents. Tucker Smith is $1,100, Gray $1,050, and McKillop $1,000. So those are the increases to their municipal portion of their property taxes for 2022. And then in comparison, the annual house insurance is approximately $1,400. And the one that I like to compare it to is the basic cell phone plan is approximately $1,200 for a resident. So I think they're getting a lot of bang for their buck at $1,500 annually, when you wouldn't even think twice about the cell phone plans, right? So distribution of property tax bills, it's shifting a bit. Huron East is starting to grab a larger portion of property tax bills. We're at 47%. Huron County is estimated at 38%. I have included an estimated 4% increase to the county levy in this chart, as I know it will increase. I'm not anticipating it'll be over 4%, but I don't know. And then education, I froze at the 2021 levy amount because that's usually what they do. What it's going to be, I'm not really sure for 2022. So their portion of the Huron East property tax bill is 15%. The 2022 operating revenue sources. So you can see our main revenue source is taxation at 44%, followed by user fees, fines, and permits at 23%. And then we're utilizing reserves 14%. And then federal or provincial funding at 10%, funding from other municipalities 4%. And then we have donations and interest income estimated at 3%. And then there's federal funding obtained for 2%. The 2022 operating expenses broken down by category or by department. There is the transportation and streetlights at 18% and water and sewer at 18.5%. Those are the highest, as well as council and administration are 17%. So they're all approximately about the same. Recreation centers are about 10% of the budget. Policing is 11%. Daycare is 4%. Our health centers and cemeteries are 2.5%. Yeah, so that gives you an idea of where the costs are going for the 2022 budget. So the residential tax rate in comparison to the 2021 tax rate, and this is municipal only. I pulled out the county and education rates because they're unknown at this time. So you can see that the C4 rate is up slightly, going from a 0.0076 to a 0.0077. So the rates are increasing slightly. Summary by ward for the 2022 municipal taxes are ranging from a 2.05% increase in Seaforth up to a 15.4% increase in Mackillop. And then there's the overall increase, municipal levy increase of the 9.49%. And that is the varying impacts to the wards are because of the different special area rates. And then the taxation increase, just the visual as where the increases are going. You can see the urbans are not increasing as much. So Seaforth is not increasing. Brussels has increased more proportionately to the Seaforth because of those Brussels renovations going on at the BMG and the Brussels Fire Hall. Gray and Mackillop, their Mackillop is heavier increase because it's heavier on the farmland. Gray has a little more industrial and commercial to help offset their increases. And then Tucker Smith is heavily in the farmland as well. So until the reassessment happens, we're going to continue to see the rural wards bearing more of the tax dollars than the urban centers. But it's anticipated when that does happen, the reassessment, that it'll start shifting back to residential. It was the prediction when it was gonna be reassessed for 2022. So that is the presentation for the 2022 budget. And I'm just looking for my notes on the increases because I wanted to give the dollar increase per ward where we stand right now. So based on the average residential property at $197,000 assessment, the various wards will have an annual increase for their municipal portion only of Gray will have $120 increase for 2022. McKillop is approximately $112. Tucker Smith is followed with 110. Brussels is 85. And then Seaforth is approximately $11 increase. So that's what all those big percentage increases equate to in dollar figures for the average residential household. So if there is any questions, I will stop sharing my screen so we can see, and then we can go from there.
Paula, I just have one question before I go to council. You're probably really close with the 4% from the county. We're just under that now, but we're not there, and there have been some requests for a couple additions. If you take that into account, how much does that change some of your averages? Like you had Seaforth at 2%, but you had McKillop at just over 15. What's that do for those numbers? Does it basically cut those numbers down by about a third when you take the education back into it?
Yes, because when I left the education at the same levy and I estimated the county at the 4% increase, we were at a 4.3% overall. I don't have the sheet of my analysis on that right here to know what the shifts on the particular wards, but it was taking it from the 7.57% down to a 4.34%, I think.
Yeah, so it should drop close to about a third across the board.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Questions of council? I think we've been through this over and over, and I think staff have done exactly what they were asked to do. My only concern, Paula, based on the report you gave tonight, what we've dropped our unrestricted reserves down to. If we were to continue doing what we did this year, after 4 years, we'd be out of reserves, basically. So we need to be a little cognizant going forward. But this was certainly a tough year, and we've decided to take on some projects that that we hadn't done in the past, which needed to be taken care of. So doing it once in a while is exactly what reserve money is for, as long as it just doesn't become a trend. So,
yes.
All right. Well, if there are no, Councillor Steffler. I think just hit your space bar. There you go. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, Your Worship, I certainly agree with you. We can't be pulling money out of the reserves every year to keep the taxes low. What are we going to do when we get down to zero? No money to take, no reserve to take the money out of. So we're going to, remember the county? 15-20% increase? That's where we're heading for here and east. And sure as God made little green apples. If we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to be in trouble in 5 years or less than 5. I agree with the budget, but I disagree with it. I don't know why we didn't bite the bullet this year and maybe have another $300-400 on our tax. If it's $300 or $400, that's only $30 a month. If you can't afford $30 a month, you should leave that case of beer at the beer store. So I will vote for it now, but I certainly disagree with cutting out, taking out the reserves. I disagree big time with taking the $250,000 out for the fire hall, but I will go and see where our strategic plan is going to go. I will vote for this budget, but I agree with you, Bernie. We can't keep taking out reserves to make us look cheap.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I'd respond to that, Joe. And no, I don't want to use up all of our reserves. I think council did some responsible things this year in deferring the balancing of the recreational boards. It's something I've asked for years, but this was just the wrong year to actually go ahead and do it, even though this was the first time I was getting support at one time to do it. But that's a little bit different. And the county kind of caused their problem a different way. And just for the benefit of the rest of council, what happened was in the late 90s, the county got a whole bunch of money from the province when the province downloaded Highway 4. And that money was to take care of Highway 4 north of Clinton, which then became a county road. Well, what the wisdom of the county council at that time chose to take that money and actually reduced county taxes across the board, which certainly made them look like heroes at the time. But unfortunately, we did have to pay the piper when it got to around 2010 or something like that. And Joe's correct. There was 15 and 20% year increases to make up for it because we had to do the work on Highway 4 at that point that we had spent all the money for. I shouldn't say we. I wasn't on council when that decision was made, but that's how they kind of got there. But I agree, Joe. At some point, if we're going to supply the services, we got to start collecting for them, or we got to make a change to the level of service that we have. Councillor Steffler, you had another comment.
Yeah, well, I don't care if we want to make ourselves look good by being cheap. At some point in time, somebody's going to pay the bill, whether it be us or whoever buys our property or whatnot. Keep in mind, their assessments are going to go up pretty good. How much is real estate going up? So our assessments are going to go up. So we can't say it's nice to be the cheapest in Huron County, but you're going to pay the piper at some time.
Paula, that does bring up one other question. The amount that we have to raise each year, of course, as long as we have new development going on. Now, we've never had enough new development to offset what is needed for the increases. But with the amount of development we have going on now, that's got to be a benefit going forward, because a lot of this new development has not hit the tax roll as of yet. So Huron East is not reaping the benefit, but they should be within the next year or two, correct?
Yes, through you, Mayor, you are correct. In 2021, the estimated growth was 0.78% in assessment. So that did bring in additional assessment for Huron East. However, you have pointed out the expansions on the subdivision projects that are going on in the housing expansion. That will bring additional revenue to Huron East. It's just, you gotta get that assessment on the roll.
Right. Okay, thank you. Councillor Steffler again.
We can fool ourselves on this new stuff. Our older real estate right now has gone up by what? 30%.
Mm-hmm.
Our assessments are going to go up. So our taxes, not unless we drop the mill rate by quite a bit, our taxes aren't going to stay the same. They're going to keep going up. And the price of everything now, like we defer getting rid of the budget or the deficits for the arenas, that's not going to go away. We've already spent that. So I'm saying we've got to quit trying to be the cheapest in North America. We've got to step up the plate and pay our bills.
Okay. Any other comments of members of council at this time? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to disagree with Councillor Steffler. His point, he's making a point as through his lens, but I think if you look through the lens of the communities, the living wage, the average household income, etc., in Huron East and Huron County as a whole, I think we're being very prudent and looking after our residents as best we can. when we look at the inflationary increases that they're seeing on food and heat and transportation, I think we're doing a good job and being very honest with our constituents. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments of members of council? Seeing none, then can I get a mover and a seconder for the motion? Moved by Councillor McClellan, second by Councillor On, that Council of the Municipality of Huron East adopt the 2022 budget as presented with projected operating and capital expenditures in the amount of $20,079,333, and that staff be authorized to proceed with operational and capital expenditures as outlined in the adopted 2022 budget, and further that upon county and school board rates being set, staff be directed to prepare a bylaw to establish the 2022 tax rates based on a 9.49 increase in the municipal levy. Comments or questions? All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you.
I object, Bernie.
Okay, I will ask for opposed then. Councillor McGrath, and any other opposed? Okay, one opposed at this time. All right. Well, I do want to thank staff for the work they put into this. It took a lot to get to where you did, and appreciate what you've done, and the fact that you were patient with council, because we asked you to go back a number of times and redo it, and you did exactly what council asked. Thank you. Next, we have accounts payable. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the accounts? Moved by Councillor Deal, second by Councillor Morrison, that the accounts payable in the amount of $1,343,140.53 be approved for payment. Are there any questions on the accounts at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Reports and recommendations of municipal officers. 8.1, site plan control. I'm not sure who's taking this. The CAO.
That would be me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two reports here. Both of them are site plan control. I'll do the first one. This is the site plan control agreement for the Pole subdivision. Council probably recall the developer did a similar process when they looked at the, I believe it's about a sixplex on Linda Drive in phase 1 of the development. So this is them doing that same process, this time on Briar Hill, on the north side of Briar Hill in the phase 2 portion. So it's been reviewed by staff where we support it. It was a well prepared and submitted application and no concerns.
Okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the site plan control bylaw? Moved by Councillor Steffler, second by Councillor Wilby. The Council of the Municipality of Huron East consider a site plan control agreement between the Municipality of Huron East and Pole Quality Homes for development of 2 6-unit townhomes on Briar Hill Road within phase 2 of the Pole subdivision, Seaforth, Ontario. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. 8.2, site plan control.
So this is a site plan control agreement with Sharon Med. This is the car wash located there on I'm trying to remember the address. Right there on Main Street, just across the railroad track. So this had been under a site plan control agreement back pre-amalgamation time, and we had struggled municipally as well as the owner of the property in terms of getting compliance on site plan control. And a lot of it was based upon a previous site plan agreement that was done by an oral decision delivered by H.C. Cooper on June 28, 2095. And that was pre-amalgamation. And And it was well before actually the municipality had kind of set what they called site plan control guidelines. And so my predecessor and myself, near the kind of the end of his and the beginning of mine, worked out a solution with the property owner to come to some resolution on the site plan control. That included a new site plan drawing that would demonstrate compliance with what we use now as current site plan control standards and requirements. And that would include your landscape components, identification of entrance only portions of the property, as well as the egress and ingress off of the railway street. And so this is bringing everything in compliance. Once they set all their landscaping situations up, we'll be in better shape for this property and be able to release the securities. So this is kind of just taking the old site plan agreement and moving into a new one that is something that both the municipality can enforce and the owner can comply with.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for the motion to begin with? Moved by Councillor McClellan, second by Councillor Steffler, that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East consider a bylaw site plan agreement between Municipality of Huron East and Sharon Mead. Comments or questions? Councillor Chartrand.
Yes, one question. Who would be responsible for the signage of the so-called one-way entrance or exits?
That would be the owner.
And those would have to be in place before they receive their money, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. CAO, I also have a couple of questions. The fact that we're updating this is a good thing, but there's a lot of history with this. And unfortunately, and I can't even remember which predecessor, but it was one of your predecessors that we ended up as a municipality with a little bit of a bad deal at one point, which never should have been made. But I'm concerned about the fact if this thing drags on. Now, I did notice when I was reading it that there was something about a 1-year timeline in there, and that if something hadn't happened within a year, that at that point the municipality could give notice or proceed with the work after giving, I think it was 30 days notice. I guess all I'm concerned about is that we don't end up where we were in the past, where we get a decade down the road, because things get really fuzzy at that point, even though something may have been in writing. Does the Public Works Department have plans that this will be accomplished sometime in the very foreseeable future?
So if I could answer that, I think there's two components of some of the challenges that we had in the past. So historically, we were providing, for whatever reason, and I don't want to dredge into what the issues were, we were providing interest on that security deposit, and we shouldn't be, and we don't going forward. I think providing interest on someone's security deposit is almost like an incentive for them not to comply with the site plan control. So, you know, and in fact, the proponent here actually was trying to get me to include interest in the agreement, and I absolutely refused to do that. In fact, I even did a poll of all the Huron County municipalities just to see whether or not anybody else had ever considered interest payments on security, and the answer was definitively no. And so I think that gives a little bit more leverage that we've got the funds there, and I believe the funds are sufficient enough to be able to complete the work. And secondly, that, you know, if that person wants their dollars back, they're going to have to comply with the site plan control agreement.
Okay, no, I appreciate that answer, and that definitely was something that I'm going to say surprised the council of the day when there was a payment made at the time. I do not know what the original deal was, because the original deal was made long before I was on council. But having said that, the Huron East Council was involved with the payment going back. But I guess my only other question is, I'm assuming that you and Public Works have had discussions about this, because this is not something that would just easily float through the office. And I'm sure Public Works had some opinions on it. Are they of the opinion that if in fact something doesn't happen within what we'll call a reasonable time frame, that they will give notice and start to make sure that the work is secured?
Yeah, I mean, the piece probably that's the biggest challenge would be the landscaping piece, because according to the site plan, most of it's based upon putting planters up and around. I think probably the piece that I'd be more interested in making sure that's enforced is the egress and ingress points. And to me, importantly, actually right at this point in time, is also where they're storing snow. So making sure that that snow is being stored in the proper snow storage areas and not within the municipal road allowance.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions of council at this time?
Yes, Bernie,
Go ahead, Larry.
you're absolutely correct. I think we've paid almost $10,000 in interest on the money we've had, although we have had it for a long time. But the site plan control now, it goes right back to exactly what they objected to in the first place. They wanted an entrance off the county road, not off the side street. That was turned down years ago. It was supposed to be solid curb and grass buffers strip in there, and they were to come off the side street. So I guess through time and everything else where we've let this go, and then the engineer didn't pick it up, drew in the entrance and stuff, they've got exactly what they want. They've got the entrance off the county road. And personally, I'd like to see that $10,000 go back to the municipality to help pay for the extra cost of putting that entrance in. Because even though it was in the engineer's report, they had gone back originally, that entrance isn't even supposed to be there. That's the comment I'd like to make. But we did pay, I believe, almost, I can't remember the number for sure, Bernie, but I think it was almost $10,000 in interest.
I think it was 11, Councilor McGrath.
It was 11,000?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Now I realize they've had their money tied up that long, but you've gone back to exactly what they've agreed to, a site plan agreement back in 95, whenever the property was done, put up the deposit. And I guess you could say it dragged on long enough that through miscalculations or errors or engineering screws up, or whatever you want to call it, you've got your entrance off the county road now. I don't know. Again, I would say if it was up to me, I would take that $10,000 and I would put it towards the extra cost to put an entranceway into the property, because it wasn't a straight run of curb and gutter.
Yeah.
That's the only comment I'd like.
I do appreciate those comments, but at the end of the day, I think the county was the ones that, when doing the work, had approved to putting that entrance there. They're the ones that have the authority for putting the entrance off of county road. So unfortunately, I think that ends up being a non-issue for us at this point, although you're correct. Originally, they were not willing to do that, but they did do that during this construction. So I don't think we have any say when it comes to that part. I'm just more interested in the fact that we have an actual timeline that we will get to the end of this deal. And it appears if we pass this and it's signed by everybody, there is a 1-year time frame. And then if it's not done to the municipality satisfaction, if I read it correctly, we only have to give 30 days notice before we can go and do the work ourselves. And if I understand from what I read, that the Public Works Department does believe there are sufficient funds there to finish the project properly, whether there's planters or not. To me, that's not as big a deal as the curbs and gutters and everything else that needs to be there from a safety standpoint. So are there any other comments of members of council at this time?
Just one more, Bernie, if that's what you're thinking, that's okay. But let's say, that money's there, but that money isn't enough to cover the cost of what's going to be done. If you were a smart person, you would not do it yourself. You would let the municipality do it, unless there was a way of levying it on their taxes. If that's the case, then that's fine. But if I've got X amount of dollars to do a job and it costs twice as much, but I can't levy it to a property to collect my overcost, then to me, it's a non-starter.
Yeah.
That's the last comment. Thanks.
Okay, no, and I appreciate that. And I can't answer that question other than what I read in the report. And Mr. CAO, I think it said in the report that there was a belief that there was enough funding there to cover the cost to finish off the project. If in fact it did fall short, is that our responsibility, or is there an opportunity to put that back as a tax levy?
I think you can probably levy any additional costs on the property, but I do believe that the amount of work that's left to be done on the site is below that $10,000 mark, if you even assume that the planters weren't part of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that information. If there's no other questions of council, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next, there is a report in there for the building maintenance and report for October to December. Always a very thorough report by John. Can I get a mover and a seconder to accept the report? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor On. That Council of the Municipality of Huron East, that CAO on 2204 building maintenance report for October to December of 2021. Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Chartrand.
Yeah, just one. The backup generator that we purchased, I'm going to say over a year ago now. John's been having a hard time getting Enbridge in to connect that thing. Is there anything that we can do to, push them, because the warranty is going to wear off the thing before we even get it connected?
Barry, you're online. You can probably concur for me. There has been a change. Obviously, we went from Union Gas to Enbridge, and I know Enbridge is way behind in terms of being able to provide the types of services that they're doing. So I don't know, Barry, if you've got a contact with Enbridge that you can.
I think Paula's got some information there.
Oh,
she's got her hand up.
Sure, Paula.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Council. John Hill was speaking with me today, and he was saying that he had a call and they were thinking there was going to be a meter installed Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the weather.
Well, that's good.
Fingers crossed.
Was that in last year's budget or the year before?
Last year's.
Okay, thank you for that information. Any other questions on the report? Seeing none, all those in favor of receiving. And motion carries. Thank you. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive all of the reports to this point? Moved by Councillor On, second by Councillor Deal, that Huron East Council received the following reports of municipal officers as presented, and they are all from the CAO at this point. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Correspondence, Mr. CAO.
Yeah, we got one piece of correspondence here. Sorry, more than one. First one's the Bradford West Willamberry, and they're looking for support against opposing the province of Quebec's Bill 21.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for the motion, please? Moved by Councillor Deal, second by Councillor McClellan. That the Council of the Municipality of Huron East support the motion from the town of Bradford West Willamberry regarding the province of Quebec's Bill 21. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you.
Next piece, we got a couple pieces of correspondence from the Brussels Horticultural Society, basically looking for additional continued support. They were unable to complete all their projects in 2021 due to some of the restrictions. They want to appreciate council on the watering of the flowers by Rick White. They're looking to have continued support for their projects in 2022, including improvements to the gazebo area beside the Sola Spa on Turnberry Street, further work on the butterfly garden in the conservation area, and sponsoring a home decorating contest for the Brussels homecoming celebration this summer. And they're also asking for to have Rick White continue to water the flowers on Turnberry Street.
Okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Morrison, that whereas the Brussels and District Horticultural Society receive support from the Council of Huron East in regards to their activities, and whereas the Brussels and District Horticultural Society were unable to complete all of their projects in 2021 due to the continuing restrictions of COVID-19, and whereas the Brussels and District Horticultural Society appreciate the watering of flowers on Turnberry Street during the summer months by Rick White, and whereas the Brussels, they got to come up with an acronym, and whereas the Brussels and District Horticultural Society is seeking continued support in 2022 for projects including the improvements to the gazebo area beside Solis Spa on Turnberry Street, further work to the butterfly garden in the conservation area, and sponsoring a home decorating contest for the Brussels homecoming celebration. And whereas the Brussels and District Horticultural Society requests that Rick White continue to water the flowers on Turnberry Street, now therefore the Council of the Municipality of Huron East continues to support the projects of the Brussels and District Horticultural Society and the watering of flowers by Rick White in 2022. Just a quick question. Have we already secured Mr. White as the person?
I haven't. Barry, have you?
Go ahead, Barry.
We do have Rick on winter maintenance detail as well as part-time. I'm almost positive that he will continue on for the summer months.
Okay, I'm only questioning it because normally you wouldn't put an employee's name in a motion. That's all. But okay, not a problem. Any other comments or questions of council? All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. 9.3. This is for the hospital.
Yeah, and I don't actually have a piece of that correspondence, so I'm going to go just off my memory here. But anyway, they are looking for additional support. A letter of support coming from the municipality in regards to the MRI unit at the Alexandra Marine and General Hospital.
Okay, I'm going to get a mover and a seconder. I'm going to read the motion. I do have a couple comments just to add, my personal comments at this point. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Deal, second by Councillor Morrison. Whereas the Alexandria Marine and General Hospital and the South Huron Hospital Association have a history of providing regional care to the residents of Huron East, and whereas the AMGH and SHHA are requesting a letter of support from the Council of Huron East for the installation of an MRI unit at the AMGH site, and whereas the addition of the MRI would greatly benefit the communities in Huron East by bringing care closer to home and improving access to the much needed diagnostic modality. Now, therefore, the Council of the Municipality of Huron East agrees to support AMGH and SHHA for the installation of an MRI unit at the AMGH site. My first question is, what I read did not have a dollar amount, but we do on occasion get a lot of requests by hospitals, and we've had more requests by Alexander Marine Hospital than all the other hospitals in Huron County put together. And County Council has told out a lot of money. And I'm concerned when times are so tough that this hospital and certainly the representatives from the town of Goderich just keep coming back to County Council and saying, pay up, pay up, pay up. It's for everybody's benefit. But I'm not always convinced that this is something that property tax dollars should be going towards. The CAT scan machine got put in at a huge cost to Huron County. We just did major renovations a few years ago, which the county is still paying year after year on at this point to cover those costs. And I'm concerned not only with the cost of whatever renovations would have to be done to put the machine in, but the problem is that once these machines are in place, the province does not seem to ever pay for the replacement of the equipment once the equipment wears out. And my understanding is the CAT scan machine is getting close to end of life and is going to need to be replaced soon. So my only concern is, do I think it's a bad idea that we have one closer to home? No, certainly not. But I don't believe that there's waiting lines for MRIs like there were years ago. And are we as a council willing to put more tax dollars towards it? And I'm looking for an opinion, because at some point we're going to get asked. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have this on our agenda tomorrow as well. Wingham and Listowel, as well as Goderich and Exeter, are both asking the province. The province is going to facilitate 15 more MRI machines in Ontario in the next year, I think it says. They will not pay the capital for any of them, but they will pay the operating costs of them, I think is how it was worded.
Okay.
Wingham's proposal is that if it went in Wingham, it would have a catchment area of 160,000 people. South Bruce, South Grey, North Wellington, and North Huron. Godrich's proposal is a catchment area of 120,000 people. The closest one to the Wingham area is London, and that's the same with Godrich. And I agree with you. It's a lot of bucks, and I don't know how many people need an MRI. I don't know. But it again, the way it was worded for tomorrow is that the province will not pay the capital. They will pay the operating costs going forward.
Okay. Any other comments at council? Councillor Steffler.
Well, we belong to the Huron First Health Alliance here, in an MRI machine in Stratford. And I know from Seaforth here, they're sent to Stratford. I don't know too many from Seaforth that have gone to Godrich for that scan. We're always, if you're an ambulance, you go to an ambulance, send to Stratford because we're part of the Health Alliance.
It's a CAT scan.
Okay. Any other comments of council at this point? Councillor Deal.
I know right now they're talking up to a 90-day wait for MRIs. So as opposed to before when it was a 2 to 3 week wait. So it has elongated, but with the
COVID,
the conditions and what's going on right now, of course, everything's backlogged too. So that's just my little bit of information.
Yeah, I certainly will not, as a county councillor, have any problem supporting the idea of having one closer to home tomorrow. But I just wanted to share my sentiments about the fact that I am concerned if this just becomes a property tax levy, that is something that a small percentage of the population may need and may not need it bad enough when we can use other services. And I think you're right, Councillor Deal. I think it's more the sign of the times of the problems at hospitals with staffing shortages and everything else that may be causing some of those booking problems, because I know I had to have one a few years ago, and I'm sure I was within a week or week and a half from when they actually booked it, and that was down in London. And I would have thought the major centers were probably the ones with the highest backlog, but I was surprised how fast we got in. So I'm not sure, but hopefully things are back to that way after this COVID issue gets dealt with. So I just wanted to share those comments with council. If council has any other comments, I'm more than willing to listen. If not, I will just call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? One, two, three, 4, 5. I'm going to be number 6 because I'm in favor of the equipment. I'm just not in favor of having to pay the bill at this point. So, and I'll still share that sentiment tomorrow when I get to county council. I don't believe there's anything under unfinished business or municipal drains tonight. So now we are down to planning and development. Welcome, Laura.
Hi. Whoops. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Hi there. Good evening, everyone. So yes, I do have a severance application tonight for your consideration. And I guess firstly, I'll introduce myself to Councillor Morrison. Hi, I'm Laura Simpson. I'm the planner and I work for the county. I'm assigned to Huron East to do the planning applications and development inquiries. And I will actually only be around for a few more weeks. I'm going off on maternity leave in mid-February, so we'll be seeing a new face for the planner soon then. So, but nice to meet you. So I will share my screen with my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, give it a second to load. So you should see the cover page for tonight's consent application.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great. And then this is consent C104-2021. So it was one of the final ones received in 2021. We cracked over 100 severance applications for the county, so it was a busy year. This application is for the property of 146 Main Street North in Seaforth. It was submitted by the owner, Ruben Van Den Assem. So the purpose of the application is to sever a residential parcel and retain 2 vacant parcels on either side of the severed land for future development. So the proposed area to be severed basically out of the middle of the subject property does contain an existing house and is approximately 0.2 acres. The entire property is currently zoned R1, residential low density, and designated residential in the Huron East official plan. There are 2 portions of the property that would act as the retained lands, one north of the severed portion, and that's approximately also 0.2 acres, and then a south portion, that's 0.14 acres. Both of those are also residential and zoned R1. So ultimately, this application would seek to create 3 residential parcels, all fronting onto Main Street North, the one with the existing house in the center, and then the 2 vacant parcels, one north and one south of the subject property. So this next slide here is an aerial photo of the property that's subject to the consent. So you can see it is a large property with quite a large frontage along Main Street North. And then it has the community facility behind it and residential north and south and abutting across the road as well. So this next slide shows the way it's being proposed to be divided by the consent. So the severed area is in the center with the existing house outlined in red, and then the 2 retained vacant lots would be created by being the portions outlined in green there. And again, all having their own access and frontage onto Main Street as well. So the subject property is within the urban boundary of Seaforth, which is considered a primary settlement area in Huron East. So it was reviewed against the policies for severances in an urban designation with the existing proposed and residential land uses. So in the Huron East official plan, urban designated lands are permitted severances when you are proposing to divide them into smaller parcels and having the effect of infilling existing built up areas. So this area would be considered an existing residential neighborhood, and the urban settlement sections of the Huron East official plan do guide development of settlements in a manner consistent with their existing level of servicing and character. So one of the One of the items that the applicant was interested in was the level of servicing and that there are service connections available at the various points along the 3 proposed lots on Main Street. Settlement areas such as Seaforth are identified as the primary location for growth and development, and particularly where intensification is encouraged. So when you have available municipal water and sewer servicing. So it does propose to increase the number of available residential units to provide more housing. And between the sizes of the parcels of land created by the consent, they are appropriate to accommodate 2 new future dwellings on each retained lot, with providing compact infill development in an existing residential area. They demonstrated through their supporting documents that the retained lands are sufficient in area to each construct a future single detached dwelling that is compatible with the R1 zoning that's on the property and meet the minimum setback from the existing residence. So I will note, as shown in this aerial photo, there was a large deck that was formerly attached to the existing house, and that has since been removed. It was on the north side of the house, has since been removed to allow that house to have sufficient setback from the proposed lot line that would divide the property. So currently this lot is considered oversized for a residential parcel and just the single existing house. So this application is an example of gentle intensification and compatible density while using the land efficiently with the available services. This next slide is Google Street View showing from Main Street North the location of the existing house. So as mentioned, that deck, at least on the northern portion, has been removed. And then there would be the frontage for each lot along Main Street there. And then the R1 zoning that's on the property is sufficient for the dimensions being proposed for each lot, as well as through drawings, they demonstrated that a single residence could be accommodated on each and meet the R1 setback. So there's no zoning change being proposed for this application. I did receive one set of comments from a member of the public during the circulation of this application. They identified they owned a tourism-driven home business in close proximity to the subject lands and inquired if it would be possible for delayed hours for construction when the future residences are being built to avoid possible disruption to their business. I did speak with the developer about this. They did identify there's not work planned for weekends or Saturdays or Sundays, so they wouldn't be creating any disturbance on the property during then. But during weekdays, they have their set hours that typically begin at 8 a.m. when the member of the public was requesting a 9 a.m. start. So they said they do have their contracted workers who need to put in a full day to meet the deadlines of the anticipated construction of the 2 houses. So follow-up comments from the neighboring landowner commented they do have concerns about impacts on their business operations during the construction of the 2 houses, as they can have full occupancy every day and a reputation for a quiet atmosphere in a rural area and are important to tourism. So they did still have that request that the construction, noise, and digging, etc., was delayed to a later hour, particularly around 9 a.m. County Public Works did also provide comments, and they stated they could support the application to create the 3 residential lots. They did have a preference that the middle lot with the existing house shared a driveway onto Main Street North with the southern lot, but that it would not be, an entrance permit would not be contingent on that layout. That's just what they felt worked best with the existing spacing of the entrances onto that section of the street. So a condition to obtain an entrance permit for each lot where applicable is recommended as a condition of this severance. So the intent of the residential and intensification consent policies in the Huron East official plan are met through this application. It is proposing to increase residential intensification and utilize an oversized existing lot to provide additional housing and use the services and lands of a settlement area. So it is recommended for approval, and I have the conditions here, which are all standard ones. I guess one to note is that there has been a change in the expiry period for when an applicant has an approved severance. That's now been extended from 1 year to fulfill the conditions, and that's been extended to 2 years now. And that's a result of some recent changes to the regulations in the Planning Act. So it does provide an applicant who has and approve severance a bit more time to meet all of the conditions put forth by the county and municipality. So that's just a change you may see going forward. So other than that, I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. Any questions of council to Laura at this time? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Laura, please. Just geography for me, Laura. The existing house, is that a large 2-story yellow brick house?
Yes, it is.
Okay, now I know where I am. What's the frontage of those 3 lots, please? Do you have a rough idea?
Yes, they're 16 meters each, and the minimum is 15 meters.
16 meters, so 50 feet roughly. Anyway,
Yes.
okay, thank you very much, Laura.
Any other comments from members of council? Councillor McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Laura. Laura, so there wasn't anything done about the 9 a.m. start time. That was left up to the contractor of 8 a.m.
Yes, that's when he said he would anticipate his workers to be starting, that he wouldn't be able to delay on weekdays.
Oh, no, that's good. Because I was thinking probably the transport trucks rumbling down through there would be as noisy as some people hammering nails in maybe. But anyway, just a comment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just to add to that, there's no doubt construction can be an irritant for a period of time when it's happening, but we've all had to deal with it. And you know what? We know businesses down Main Street of Seaforth had to deal with it for a year and a half. When construction has to get done, it does have to get done. And I don't think anybody goes out of their way to bother their neighbors. It's not like they'll start the jackhammer right at 8 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes some employees don't get rolling until 8:30 anyway. So they're getting halfway to what they wanted. So anyways, at this point, can I have a mover and a seconder to accept the report? Moved by Councillor Steffler, second by Councillor On, that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East acknowledge the report of Huron County Planner Laura Simpson dated January 12th of 2022 and has no objection to severance application C-104-21 of Ruben Van Den Assem for concession 1 part lot 25 as PR 22R97 part 1 and part 4 Seaforth Ward, provided the following conditions are met. 1, that the conditions imposed be met within 2 years of the date of notice of decision as required by section 5341 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended. That $750 be paid to the municipality as cash in lieu of parkland. That the subject parcel be numbered and addressed for 911 purposes to the satisfaction of the municipality. That a survey showing the lot lines of the severed parcel, easement, and location of any buildings there on be provided to the satisfaction of the municipality. That a reference plan based on the approved survey be provided to the satisfaction of the municipality. I just have one question at this point, and I'm assuming this is for our CAO. Brad, it talks about $750 as cash in lieu of parkland, but we're actually making 2 extra lots, correct? So is it $1,500?
Maybe we want to rephrase that to be $750 per lot.
Yes.
Per lot.
Yes, because if we pass this bylaw, they kind of have us.
Yeah. So maybe we want to amend that resolution to say that $750 per new lot be paid.
Per new lot, okay.
I would agree with that as well, Mr. Mayor and Brad.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions from council?
Yeah, Bernie just said one.
Go ahead.
He's going to be responsible for servicing the extra 2 lots then?
Either he will be or whoever buys them will be, Larry.
Because all I can tell you is in the North Main Street there, the sewer is very, very, very deep. Just didn't know how that was going about, or if he would be allowed to tie on to say at the property line in front of the existing residence. pick up the services there. I guess that's a question for servicing the lots, but the way the health unit words things and wants things worded now, your services cannot cross another person's property.
I believe that's
So
correct.
And I think that's a question that he should, it's something he should understand that could be very costly or otherwise. That's all. Just want to give that heads up and see who's responsible. That's the only comment I have to make. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. We are down to council reports. Are there any council member reports? County Council, Mr. Deputy Mayor, do you have anything to add?
We have nothing to report on the charging station again. Still a work in progress. Looking for another funder, I was told this afternoon. And we had an interesting presentation last week, or when was it? On the 5th, I guess. About a, for lack of a better description, the building of a green tiny home, and Huron County somewhere being the prototype for a business out of Clinton. So we're waiting for a further report on it, but it sounds interesting to me going forward, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it was, it's called a carbon negative construction. So they're actually claiming that not only will the home be carbon neutral, but the actual project itself will be more carbon negative in the materials than regular construction is the plan. So at this point, they are looking for funding. Now, FCM is willing to grant up to 80% of the cost of the project for people that are inventing these new ideas. And so they're looking for some way to come up with the other 20%. So that was the reason for their presentation at County Council as of yet. Are there any other boards, committees, meetings, or seminars that anybody would like to bring up at this time? Okay, seeing none.
All right, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Go ahead.
The one letter we got, I don't know if Councillor Dalton would be interested, or Councillor Deal, maybe the Osable Bayfield forage crop. They're having some seminar or Zoom meeting. The information is in our agenda tomorrow. If Councillor Dalton or Councillor Deal incorporated that in their farming practices, they might be interested in taking it in a forage crop presentation.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks for raising that. Okay, if there's nothing else under committees, meetings, or seminars at this point, we are reappointing the committees that used to be to Councillor Lau, with the bulk of them all going to Councillor Morrison, with the exception of two of them. I believe Councillor Willoughby to the CHIP program, and Councillor On to the Water and Sewer Committee, because Brussels is one of the three centers in the municipality that have water and sewer both. And I don't think there was anything else that was changed on it, not that I recall from memory anyways. So if I get a mover and a seconder, I will read off the appointments. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Chartrand. Before I read the motion, just so I don't have to go through it again, is there any concerns with the appointments as they were listed by any members of council? Okay, seeing none at this time. That Council of the Municipality of Huron East appoint the following members of council to the committee vacancies for the remainder of the 2018 to 2022 term of council. Councillor Gloria will be appoint to the Coalition for Huron Injury Prevention. Councillor On removed from the Brussels Medical Dental Board and appointed to the Water and Sewer Committee. Councillor Morrison appointed to the Brussels Morrison and Gray Management Committee. Councillor Morrison appointed to the Brussels Cemetery Board. Councillor Morrison appointed to the Personnel Committee. Councillor Morrison appointed to the Brussels Trust. Councillor Morrison appointed to the Brussels Medical Dental Committee, and Councillor Morrison appointed to the Brussels and Area Fire Committee. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Are there any requests by members at this time? Okay, are there any notices of motion? Councillor McClellan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to serve notice tonight that I'm going to bring this motion forward that's on your agenda. On number 1331. And basically where that arose from was from CEO Brad's report back in November, I believe it was. He brought forward a number of recommendations and surveys that he was going to do. One of them was he was going to look at the committee structure of our council. And also too, he was going to strike ratepayers committee to look at what council gets paid. So I was just wondering if this council would consider expanding that to look at our composition of council as well when they're looking at what we're getting paid. I don't think we've ever done anything like this before. There's no time frame. There's nothing that this council really has to do if they do bring back recommendations for this. But they can act on it if they want to, but nowhere in this motion does it say anything that we have to do anything with it either. That's going to be totally left up to this council at that time. I talked to Deputy Mayor Fisher quite a bit about this. I did talk to Mr. Mayor as well, talked to the CEO as well, so we could come up with something. I just want you to consider it. I think it's got some merit behind it. And what we do with it at the end of the day is still up to this council, whether we do anything or we don't have to do anything. So any questions, you can either call me or email me. I'll call you. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I read this portion out, Brad, as this is notice of what the motion would be at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Actually, I believe since the motion and the notice was already provided on the council agenda, council could vote on this motion tonight.
Okay.
But if Councillor McClellan wishes to defer it to the next meeting, that's certainly his choice. It's his motion.
Yeah, I don't really care. If council wants a chance to think about it, I suppose you've had it in your package. Your thoughts, Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Thank you. I think we wait till the next meeting in case there's a chance of some input from the community. Perchance, it's hopefully Sean will have it in the citizen, and also if the fellow councillors get a bit more time to digest it and think about it as well.
Okay. All right. So if we're going to leave it till the next meeting, then this is the information of what's going to be on the motion. So is there a need to read this, Brad? You're muted.
I don't think you'll have to read that, Mayor. I think you'll be okay with it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chartrand.
Yes, I just would like to make a comment. I too have had a conversation with Councillor McClellan about this. I think the template is a great idea. I like the public involvement of it. However, where I have a concern with it is the timing of it. And I know there's no timing, as Councillor McClellan said, on it. However, that being said, 4 weeks ago tonight, this council passed the motion, and I'll read it to you. Moved by Councillor Chartrand, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor Fisher, that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East remain with the status quo regarding the Council of Composition, and that this discussion resume with the new term of council. I guess we could go ahead and get information. However, this current council cannot vote on a composition of council that'll take place in the year 2026. I would like to see this template just moved instead of starting it, say, in February of 2022, started in February of 2023, which would be the new term of council. And it gives that council 3 years basically before the so-called deadline of the composition of a council. But this council has already made a decision in a vote of 9 okay and 2 against that this council will not be making the decision of the composition of council for the next election.
Okay, if I can respond to that, this here is to put a committee together to bring information to council.
I
What
agree.
council does with that information, council's allowed to do whatever they want with that information when they get that information. And I think I already raised the whole comment about the fact that we tried to have this discussion in the first year of new councils, and we were told that we shouldn't be doing that because there was new members on council and it should be done when people are more seasoned. And you get closer to the end of the term, and then we get told that, well, we shouldn't be doing it now because we should be leaving it for the next council. I think what Councillor McClellan has here is what was even raised as a comment that we should be getting feedback from the public. And that sounds like exactly what this is. This is finding out from the public what their opinion is, not only on the composition, but also what councillors are worth to them, because they're the ones that are paying the bills. So all we're really doing is going to the people that are paying all the costs and asking for their opinion on how we should be organized, set up, and paid.
I'm not disagreeing with that, Mr. Mayor. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I think it's a fantastic idea. I just want to make the point clear that whatever information comes forward, okay, this council will not vote on the composition of that council. We've already voted not to do that.
But this council has the authority to reverse that call if they chose to do so. But it is, I think it's.
We're already past the deadline for that.
Oh, no. Oh, absolutely. This couldn't be for the next election.
No, but I know that if I got elected to the next council and I'm a newbie, I get your point that, you know, we've always not handled this well. In fact, point in case, we failed last year trying to get it passed through in the last meeting. The point that I was trying to make is the information will be good, but that information should be handed over to the next council. That's the point that I'm making. Get all the public information. I love the template. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that the package of the information should be handed over to the next council and said, we've done the legwork for you. This is what the public says. Here's our recommendations, but that council should make the decision is my point.
Okay, well, that can certainly be discussed with council when the information comes forward. That decision can be decided.
I think it's a great idea.
I'm sure it would be a lengthy discussion at that point. So anyways, there is a notice of motion. There's been a request that we hold it off to the next meeting so everybody's had an opportunity to think about it. Absolutely, that's not a problem. There's no reason to push this any faster. So I do not need to read this at this point. So I am down to, are there any announcements by members of council? Seeing none, then I would ask the CAO to go over any information items that he would like to point out.
So we got councilors' expenses that's provided in the agenda. Maitland Valley Conservation Authority has their 2022 priorities and draft budget. So either any councilor can provide comments they might have on that draft budget to Councillor McClellan as our representative on the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, or myself, or to Jessica Ruby, our clerk. Here in East, there's the here in East Seaforth Community Trust Development Trust meeting minutes, as well as the Seaforth and District Community Center Management meeting minutes.
Okay. Is there any other business from members of council this evening? Okay, seeing none, we are down to bylaws. Can I get a mover and a seconder to introduce the bylaws, please? Moved by Councillor Deal. Oh,
Sorry.
Mr. CAO.
Yeah, you have a motion there to accept the 2 minutes. The Seaforth District Community Trust as well as the management, the rec center. 14. It's right at the top of the list of the motions there.
Oh, sorry. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor McClellan, second by Councillor Steffler, that the Council of the Municipality of Huron East receive the following board and committee meeting minutes as submitted. The Huron East Seaforth Community Development Trust meeting, December 2nd of 2021. The Seaforth and District Community Center Management meeting, January 12th of 2022. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. And the mover and the seconder for the bylaws, I had Councillor Deal as moving it, and Councillor On had her hand up to second it. That be it hereby resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 for 2022. Bylaw 6 of 2022, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan control agreement between Pole Quality Homes and the Municipality of Huron East. Bylaw 7 of 2022, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan control agreement between Sharon Med and the Municipality of Huron East. Bylaw 8 of 2022, a bylaw to authorize a funding agreement between Ontario Trillium Foundation and the Corporation of the Municipality of Huron East. Bylaw 9 of 2022, a bylaw to authorize a funding agreement between the County of Huron and the Corporation of the Municipality of Huron East. And bylaw 10 of 2022, confirm council proceedings. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Before I go on to the bylaws, Brad, and I should have asked you this before we got to the meeting, but is there any harm in acknowledging the help that we got from Lisa in the last week, or is that kind of a separate thing?
Well, yeah, we're not supposed to necessarily make any sort of public statement about the OTF grant. That will come out shortly in a press release. Okay, all right. I will. I'll wait to give her accolades at that point then. Perfect. Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder for bylaw 6? Moved by Councillor Chartrand, second by the Deputy Mayor, that be it hereby resolved that bylaw 6 for 2022, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan control agreement between Pole Quality Homes and the Municipality of Huron East, be given first, second, third, and final readings, signed by the Mayor and the Clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? And motion carries. Mover and a seconder for bylaw 7. Moved by Councillor Dalton, second by Councillor Morrison, that be it hereby resolved that bylaw 7 of 2022, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan control agreement between Sharon Med and the Municipality of Huron East be given first, second, third, and final readings, signed by the Mayor and the Clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? And motion carries. Mover and a seconder for bylaw 8. Moved by Councillor Wilby, second by Councillor Steffler, that be it hereby resolved that bylaw 8 for 2022, a bylaw to authorize a funding agreement between Ontario Trillium Foundation and the Corporation of the Municipality of Huron East be given first, second, third, and final readings, and signed by the Mayor and the Clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. And all those in favor? And motion carries. Okay, little typo here, but not a problem. Can I get a mover and a seconder for, that would be bylaw 9, please. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Deal. That be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to authorize a funding agreement between the County of Huron and the Corporation of the Municipality of Huron East be given first, second, third, and final readings, signed by the Mayor and the Clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. There is no closed session this evening, is there?
No, okay. And can I get a mover and a seconder for bylaw 10? Moved by Councillor Chartrand, second by Councillor Morrison. That be it hereby resolved that bylaw 10 for 2022, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be given first, second, third, and final reading, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Deal. That at 9:20. That the time now being 9:20 p.m. that the meeting do now adjourn until February 1st of 2022 at 7 p.m. All those in favor?